Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. Today we're going to take a look at another Wendy's issued GoBot. This time around, it's the Guardian GoBot, known as Beamer. Beamer would be available for a limited time in 1985 for about a period of maybe a week or two, depending on how often they rotated the kids' meal stock at Wendy's. So when the promotion was over, he would be discontinued. However, he would resurface several years later and be a mail-away offer from Kool-Aid. As you can see here, with a little bit of an up-close look, he's kind of a simplistic toy. There's no hiding that. Kind of, even as you turn him around to the backside, it gets pretty plainly obvious what he is. It's the problem with some of these simple kids' meal toys, but at any rate, there's also some painted detail here on his body. And that's a flaw against him, since unfortunately this is the end that faces the ground when he rolls around. So the paint wear here, this yellow paint here, does wear off. It's probably not easy to see in the camera, but you can see the paint around it for his eyes is a little damaged. Again, that's just from normal play wear. As far as articulation goes for Beamer, he's limited to just his arms. And unfortunately, they don't really go very far. That's about as far up as his arms can go. But they can swing around that far in the opposite direction. So you do get a fair amount. It's just the wheel and the fender here tend to get in the way for full rotation. Now, let's take a look at how to convert Beamer, and again, that's a pretty simple process. First thing you will do is lower his arms, like so, and then push them in at the shoulders, like so, and then we compress his legs, and there's his alternate mode, some sort of racing car. It's not exactly stated anywhere what exact model of car he's intended to be, but he does seem to share a relatively similar design with Turbo. I mean, again, it's not exactly the same, but when you look at the two of them together here like this, more and more of the similarities between the two do show up. As namely, they both have the spoiler in the back, and they are predominantly red in color. And of course, we all know that Turbo was intended to be based off of a concept vehicle, whereas Beamer was just made up to look like some sort of generic toy car. As again, per the doctrines that Tonka set up, probably also as well with the Wendy's company. Beamer does have some plastic wheels that are connected to an axle, so he should roll fairly good. Even with the tablecloth on this table, he does roll pretty darn good. So, I'm sure he kept quite a few kids amused and entertained for quite a while back in the day. Those of you that are close to my age, you know what a big deal it was to get these silly things out of your kids' meals. Nowadays, I don't think they have the same appeal. At any rate, like all the others that we've got a sample of Beamer here still on the packaging. You see it's done up in the brighter red colors. It's got the Wendy's and the GoBot's logo on the side there. Gives his name as Beamer, and says he's a Guardian GoBot sports car. Of course, down here at the bottom, we got the Tonka logo, and he's recommended for ages 3 and up. Turn it around to the back side, we got the usual black border that was on a lot of GoBot toys. And it gives a little bit of a bio for him. With lightning speed, Beamer races across the roads to capture renegade invaders. Fast talking and quick acting, he sometimes finds more trouble than he wants. But Beamer always manages to find a way out, somehow. Once again, that bio is going to draw comparisons between him and Turbo, since a lot of that perfectly describes Turbo. Turbo was always rather fast-talking and was prone to acting first without thinking of his actions. So Beamer, more and more, comes off as a knockoff of Turbo. Then we look down here at the instructions. As you can see, they're pretty simple. And you have the warning to carefully follow all instructions in order shown. Yeah, right, where was the fun in that? And then, of course, we got the legal stuff down here and the Tonka logo at the side. So, there we have it with Beamer, folks. Not a whole lot really to say about him. But we'll go ahead and give you my thoughts, as it's what you expect. Unfortunately, Beamer comes off too much as a copy of Turbo. I don't know if that was what their intent was to do with him, or people coming up with these bios were just lazy. But unfortunately, Beamer comes off too much like a copy of Turbo. And with that robs him of any sort of originality, especially with the fact that you consider that Turbo was a main character in the GoBots cartoon, whereas Breeze, that we looked at earlier this month, his counterpart Twinspin, was not a regular character on the show. So whatever they wrote about Breeze could easily be written off, regardless of how similar it would be to Twinspin, due to the fact there'd be a little bit of give and take between the two. Unfortunately, in this case, that doesn't help. The bio that they wrote on the back for Beamer is too similar to Turbo's. So pretty much the Guardians have two characters that are pretty much the same. And more than likely, if the two of them ever met, they probably wouldn't get along with each other, because they'd rub each other the wrong way with their similarities. But I also don't care too much for Beamer due to other matters as well. I'm not a fan of the paint on his chest. It's too minimalistic, for one thing, and number two, it's on the bottom side of the car, so it means it's gonna get rubbed off every time it gets played with. There's always the chance it's gonna scratch against something that's on the floor or outside on the ground, and that's gonna scratch the paint up. So I've never been a fan of paint being on the bottom of these toys. It's just too easy to destroy. As for Result Mode, it's alright, but it's uninspiring, really. A lot of that also comes from the fact that several of the other GoBot toys that were released were all red. It's like Tonka had an overstock of red plastic, and they just used it on every GoBot that they could. A fair amount of them were molded in Japan in their original colors, and they were not red, and those would have been fine. But for some reason, Tonka felt we needed to get red. So we constantly got a lot of red cars. And unfortunately, since, like I said earlier, Beamer's mode comes pretty close to resembling Turbo's, it's just uninspiring. I mean, maybe if you didn't have Turbo as a child when you got this toy, then maybe he could have been a good stand-in for you for Turbo. But if you already had Turbo, why would you want Beamer? And that concludes my review of the Guardian robot sports car, Beamer. If you liked the review, please leave a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, hit the subscribe button down below so you can join up within our ranks. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you'll be alerted to when videos get posted. Please also share your thoughts about Beamer in the comments section down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.